My name is Brandon, and over the past year, the Delight Cafe team and I have traveled across the U.S. researching this rapidly growing industry of CBD products. What we have found throughout the industry were products that were inconsistent in dosage and used ingredients that weren't even lab tested. Products with chalky textures, bitter aftertaste, and worst of all, confusion among the CBD consumers. That's why we created Delight Cafe. A 15 milligram, lab-tested, all-natural, water-soluble hemp CBD powder pack. It's odorless, colorless, and tasteless. Add it to your favorite drink of choice, wherever, whenever, on the go. Quickly find your calm, your balance, and your delight when you need it most.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of Java Delight. We're here today. My name is Brandon Croucher. I'm CEO of Delight Cafe, and I get to be blessed with the one, the only, the South African princess who blesses us every morning with her wonderful presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the Miss Ilse.
Morning. Hope you guys are doing well.
I wore a tie just because we have a guy, our guest today is done a TED Talks, and he has one of the most highest viewed TED Talks in history, apparently. He's got millions of views. He's adorable. He has a great smile. I already checked out his website and stalked him a little bit this morning, so I'm excited for that. How are you doing, Miss Ilse? Are you excited for a good day?
I am excited for a good day. Yesterday was a good day for me, so today was just a chill day. Yeah, I've got shower. You
got a shower? You're already a step ahead of me.
Yes.
And then I felt really fat in this shirt, even though I worked out. But I think I look handsome.
I think it's the energy. I feel fat in everything today.
You know what? I feel that same way. I really, really do. Like, I feel like everything I've touched the last few days has just been, like, wearing on me. I'm sweating. Donnell! Woohoo! Good morning, y'all. Good morning, Sherry.
Morning, Sherry.
Ready? You got this one. Yell it.
Hey, Stuart! Good morning.
Oh, hold on. You ready? Here's a fun one. You got to do this one with all your heart. Ready?
Okay. It's the breakfast show. We are ready for the breakthrough. Yes.
I love it. Good morning.
I need a breakthrough.
So why do you need a breakthrough? What's going on?
I'm just in my mood.
I don't know what that means.
It means that I am just feeling way. I don't know.
Are you tired?
Emotional.
Emotional. Okay, why are we emotional? Really? That's a good one. I'm just picking on you with that last one. What's going on, Elsa? You are emotional this morning. Girl! Oh no, I made her cry already. I suck as a human. I'm so sorry.
I'm just having a bad day, so it's just like everything just happens at once, so I just need to breathe and just chill, but I'll be okay. No, it's not you. No, I've been crying the whole day. Don't you worry. I've been crying the whole day.
As I get to make sure the show's running on YouTube, because yesterday it cut out, all of a sudden the voices of us start popping in. Oh, Lord, Brandon, if it's going to make me cry, I'm not coming on. I'm so sorry, Elsa. Like, tell me what onesie you want. I will go for the onesie on just to make you smile. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, all right, so I'm going to change the subject just for you, okay? Anything else? Ready? Okay, here we go. How has the giraffe petting been going? It's like my iguana never goes anywhere. He just sits here and I pet him all day.
My giraffes aren't that well behaved.
Oh, I feel
They
so
run around
bad.
the whole
Oh,
time. No, don't feel bad at
virtual,
all. We get our days.
but you're getting love. Like
Oh,
people,
that's
like
so
Donna,
nice. Thanks, Donald.
hugs and
The
kisses. Oh,
Donald.
Donnell. You know what happened?
Brandon makes me cry all the time.
You make me cry all the time, Brett. Every time I read your name, I'm like, ah. No, I'm just kidding. Things we could talk about today. I see on the back comments. I have to read that to myself later. Especially when people pet his giraffe. What? Who pets my giraffe?
When you pet your giraffe.
You're sending healing energy right now. Elsa, like, did you work today? Because I know you have a lot coming up and a lot of things.
I actually got back into my bed at 11 o'clock and slept until 3 o'clock. So
Really? So it's just been a day. And you know what? We're allowed I honestly, 100%, I see how today has worn on you, and we've all had days like that. We all have days that feel like this. And guess what? You still showed up. You're still here. I wish that you weren't like an ocean away and a whole like 2 continents. But like, I would hug you and tell you how amazing you are because you show up and you bring this positive energy all the time. I do not like that. And for me, I want to say thank you, Ilse. Now,
it's a pleasure. If it's not for you guys, this is the only thing I look forward to. So I need to be here. I needed to show up for myself. So thank you for all the love. And
I love you. I love that you're here. I love
you guys.
You are just such a good energy and such a good person. So please know that we all love you and we all care about you. Even Jessica Dugas in the background. I brought her in just for the heart. But Ilse, let's talk about something positive. All right. So
please.
Perfect. I love it. All right. So Brett Gordon is 5'2". He's still not allowed to ride adult roller coasters. What do we do if we take him out in public and he's not allowed to ride roller coasters with us? What should we do?
We get them that shoes. We get him that shoes that's got the big soles that like give you a extra foot or something, and then he can go on the rides.
Now I know Brett Gordon well enough. Now he's going to ask if he can have that extra foot put somewhere else.
You can have whatever. You can do whatever you want, Brett, with your extra foot.
You can put it in your ass for all I care, Brett. Ilse, I love it. I love how you coming in and just being you. So, how are your kids? Which kid did you push down the stairs this morning? Any of them? Because I'm going to ask Jessica if you get the same. All 3 of them.
All 3 of them. No, I'm just joking. No, my kids are wonderful. My kids are amazing. If it's not for them, I'll probably not be here anymore. So, and that's just how it is. There's a green. Say that. I want to read that again. There's a green bubble around you now, healing you. It will last till bedtime, my dear. Oh, thanks, Sherry. Thank you so much.
That is awesome. Who switched this? They switched all my stuff. I have no buttons to be able to click. I have nothing I can do now. My whole show is now under Jessica Dugas' name. Jessica, I hope you're ready. This is now the breakthrough show. It's called the BJ Cafe. I got to figure out a way to. Yeah, her and I created this show. It's called the BJ Cafe. We get guests like the big dude from the big C up north. One goes hand with another and all that. It's just one of those things. But we are here having fun, and I'm glad to see people putting out good vibes towards you, people spreading love, giving us the love up top. CK Ford, I see you just gave a heart. Love you, girl. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spreading positivity with us. Ilse, if I was the one having a long day, and you call me, and I don't want to talk about it. Oh, Bob! Say hi!
Hi, Bob!
I love it. Bob, Sherry, Mandy,
hi,
Jessica.
Mandy. Hello, Jessica.
I just had to get a
meet and greet.
Meet and greet. So you've already made it through your Thursday. You're done with the day. You're moving on. Friday, 1 day left in the week. 1 day left. You got through hump day. Did you hump anybody yesterday? Don't answer that.
Oh, no. No, I didn't. Probably wouldn't be crying then, eh?
My favorite is I ask that, and as I go to answer that, I watch Brett's face in the back go. Did you? Oh, man, that was a classic for Brett. Now, what are you planning for this weekend? Anything fun? Anything extraordinary? Anything out of the no? You're just going to shake your head?
I haven't planned anything yet, to be honest. I was asked by my you know, the whole story about my brother and my parents that I don't talk to or whatever. So it's my mom's birthday on the 24th and my brother's birthday on the 21st of August. And they're having a braai on Sunday, which is like a barbecue for you guys. And they actually invited me, and I don't know if I want to go. I'm like so conflicted if I want to go or not. So I don't know.
I can understand that. I have a question. So I am divorced as well. And my ex and I's wedding anniversary was August 22nd. And you said the 21st and the 25th. So it made me think of this. How do you celebrate your divorce? Because for me, on that day, I usually do something for myself. I see Jessica laughing at me in the background. Sorry. I love to be able to let go of that. And it's a moment of freedom for me to remind myself that was the day that everything ended and a life of mine, a book, a chapter, whatever you want to call it, closed. It ended. So I try to celebrate that now instead of looking back and being like, God, she was a So like for me...
Mine's the 3rd of September, but it's not my divorce because my ex-husband doesn't want to sign the papers. I've been struggling to get divorced for 3 years. But I left him on the 3rd of September. So if I drank, I would have got very drunk and celebrated. But I'll celebrate with and just have an awesome day.
Tobacco. Oh. She's talking about tobacco, everybody.
I'm talking about tobacco.
We have to say it with that accent. Tobacco. Hi, everyone. Oh, Donna.
Hi, CK. Hi, Donna.
I love it. So, okay. What would you do, though? Let's say he signed the papers. September 3rd, the divorce is done. He signs it. How do you celebrate your divorce? This is the weirdest question to have.
I know exactly how I'm going to celebrate it. I still have my wedding dress. I'm planning on spray painting it black. And doing a photo shoot, like a empowerment photo shoot with my wedding dress on, and then setting it alight, and then lighting my tobacco with that same flame.
Yeah, you finish that tobacco and you flip it in just like a movie. Like, can you film all of that for me, please? Just like
well, I'm gonna make a TikTok. I'm gonna make a Facebook page. All the haters, because I get stalked on a daily basis. So believe me, they will see it.
Oh, see, that's not cool. Being stalked on a daily basis, like by people for hating, is not a fun thing at all. And that's where you got to take the haters and be like, all right, bye. But blow that shiznit up. Be you. Be who you want to be. And I love that. I did not get to blow up my tux. Unfortunately, I had to return it. But I did have a chocolate fountain, and I kind of ruined it, and they never charged me for it. Does that count for anything?
That does. That's like 10 points.
What, did it rain on your wedding day? They say it's good luck if it rains on your wedding day.
I actually got married on the beach. It was just my family and us, and we got like a quick 10-minute ceremony, or not 10 minutes, like an hour on the beach. Standing there doing the ceremony, I had some finger foods, and then everybody went on their merry way. But the beach is about 6 hours from us, and that's where people go on holiday. So everybody went on holiday, spent it there. We got married on the beach, and then everybody went on their own way and had holiday, and we spent it there as well.
I have to admit, that's a lot of fun, actually. Like, I don't want a real wedding. If I ever get married again, I don't want to get married again. But if I ever get married again. I said I'll never.
Yeah, I said I won't get married again. Like under the law, married under law. Like make it like sign the papers. Half is yours, half is mine. Because I've been losing all the time with that. It's I've walked out of my marriage with nothing. I left everything. So I don't know if I'll get married again.
I think after you've been married
I don't know
once,
why people
the
want to get
divorce.
married.
Yeah, like I don't ever really want to get married again because that divorce hurts. That divorce takes a lot out. It's being able to be with that person that you've been with and you have that connection with it. You said it the other day. It's not the person that completes you, because I used the wrong word. And you said it's the person that compliments. Yep, exactly. The internet was slow there. Sorry about that. Like honestly, you're looking for that person that compliments you. You're looking for that. And I'm not sure where I'm gonna find that. Like I know that one day it's gonna happen and I root for it. And honestly, I hope the same for you. Bob has found his very serious and committed relationship with Bullwinkle. It's just awkward to watch them make love. Well, the rest of us Brian I just stalk my dolphin dancer anytime, anywhere. That's all
you stalk away.
I stalk my stalkers right back. It's a lot of fun.
Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. Quickly give me 2 seconds.
No.
Wi-Fi off first.
Yeah, go turn the Wi-Fi off.
Done.
Yeah, done. Go turn the Wi-Fi off. Done.
all you heard is Wi-Fi. No, I said he must move it a little bit more because the signal is so bad and then it's delayed again. So I gotta.
You're good. I hear you at least today. I see you. I hear you. I love Jessica's face in the background. Elsa, please find me on Facebook. Sherry McQueen wants you to find her on Facebook, Elsa. I'll make sure I connect you too.
Right now.
So today, we actually have a special guest, Elsa. Do you want to know about our guest today, Elsa, because you've had a long morning?
I do. I really do. I read some of his information and I'm very excited to speak to him.
His name is Mark Henick, and he is a TED Talk speaker that loves to talk about the seriousness of mental health and suicide. He has been the host of the So-Called Normal podcast and Living Well podcast for LifeWorks. He has interviewed hundreds of experts, celebrities, public figures about mental health, and he focuses on and he is an advocate for the Commission of Canada's Board for Mental Health. Mark's various roles with the Canadian Mental Health Association influenced frontline clinicians and program managers, and most recently, a national director of strategic initiatives. He owns a boutique mental health media consulting firm and is a high-demand international keynote speaker on mental health recovery. His first book, So-Called Normal, a memoir of a family, depression, and resilience, was released in 2021. I'm honestly excited for this because suicide is something that, yes, we've talked about. Thank you. Like, I love that. You guys are so sweet. I love that, CK, telling me I look handsome today. She didn't say handsome, Brandon. You look bright and airy. Guess what? I look handsome. But in all seriousness, though, for real, he comes at it with a good morning, Brian.
Morning, Brian.
A conversation about mental health in a totally different way. And we talk about this a lot on here, but he wants to talk about the suicide part. There are statistics going out the water right now, being blown out the water with suicide statistics, from the amount of younger people that are doing it to the people that are suffering from depression at younger ages to even the anxiety of the parents who maybe don't understand it. So for him to come on, Mark's going to be opening up a whole new side of things, and he's really going to be showing us a lot more about what we can be doing. So if you have any questions, if you know anybody that suffered from mental health issues, Mark is going to be here in about 40 minutes, and we're going to be having him on to talk about his TED Talk. Has over 6.7 million views. Several of them are mine. I Stuart, 100% with you on that one. I love that because it's one of these things where this is a very serious topic. And for us to be able to have this conversation with someone who's written a book and done a TED Talk, I'm honored that we get to have him on here this week. We also have, for the first time in 2 months, I get to have you, Miss Ilse, and the All-American woman, Miss Jessica Dugas, both on at the same time. I have not seen Miss Dugas in a while on this show. And for her to be back after a lot going on, from COVID to her husband getting a new job to having 7 kids and an 8th wanting to live in her house just for no reason whatsoever, she's literally like being an example to not just me, but to you and everybody else around her. My favorite thing is the domino effect. She plays with her kids on the stairs, has the littlest one up front, pushes them, and they all fall down to the biggest one. But the worst part is the song that they sing. Hello, Mama. I'm watching all of the faces and all that in the background. And now I'm going to switch back to suicide. Mental health in smooth transition. It's gotten much worse, especially with children since COVID. Yes, yes, yes. Brandon, can I send you something to share with others on here? Please send it to me, Mandy. I'll look at it tonight, and we'll put it on tomorrow if we're able to, and make that happen. All right. And then Stuart Lone Wolf says, "Good morning, Brian Tracy, you sexy son of a son." I mean, it's all true there. He's a son of a son.
That's exactly what he says, but he just wrote "Good morning." He knew exactly you were gonna know what he wanted to say.
That was my dyslexia kicking in there. That's how I read that. Brett's in the back going, no,
not today.
no, Brandon. That's not how it says. Oh, that's funny. But we're going to have this really serious conversation in a little bit. So let's have some fun. Let's laugh. Let's get some good things. Elsa, I need you to do me one big thing. Smile as big as you can. I hate when guys tell women to smile, but tell me something that makes Elsa happy. Anything in the world. It could be sex, it could be weed, it could be Jessica Dugas for all I care. What makes
all of the above? All of the above. All of the
sex with Jessica Dugas while smoking weed? Wow!
X-rated.
This episode is rated PG-17.
18.
I want it to be a worldwide audience.
What makes me happy?
What makes you happy?
The last couple of years, I realized that it's my kids. My kids make me happy. My job doesn't make me happy. People, my relationships with people, and the change that I can bring in people's lives. If I can have a conversation and a deep conversation with someone, and because I'm single and alone, I mean, I only have my having that someone or people or that friends that you can have deep conversations with and just talk about your feelings and not being judged and everything. So that makes me happy. My kids, my podcast that we're busy with a lot of things that makes me happy to do the interviews. Last night's interview, it was so insane. It was so amazing. I'm so excited for Sunday to premiere. We've got another 2 coming up. And everything's just happening. The guys' nominations are coming out. So the podcast, this makes me happy. Being here with you guys. And then my own podcast and my kids.
I love that. Now, you had a podcast yesterday. How did it go? You were
it was so awesome. Yes, it was so awesome. The guys of the bands are so nice. I mean, they literally don't get anything out of it. And they take, during COVID, they drive to us, they come sit there, they have a conversation with us, they open and honest, and it's just so amazing that they give their time. And in today's day and age, it's difficult to find people that are willing to give you time. Mm-hmm. You can give me anything in the world, but if you give me time and that attention for that time when we talk and everything, I mean, that's priceless. So I'm very excited for it. We starting with our t-shirt designs and all that to launch our merch for our channel, and so there's a lot of things happening and things that makes me happy. So and I literally told my boss, because they wanted me to work from home for the next 2 weeks. And I sent him an email yesterday and I said, you guys you're doing the quotes in any case. I've got better things to do. In 2 weeks, I need to work on my future now. This chapter's finished. So I released myself from that completely yesterday. Yes, yesterday I just said to them, I'm done now. So I'm done. I'm not going back to work. So now it's just getting all my own things ready and get everything started and stuff. So after today, tomorrow will be better. And then
do you want to run in place? Do you want to run in place for 30 seconds with me?
No? If you promise it's no.
I don't want to.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say, if you promise it's only going to be for 30 minutes, because my pants are too big for me, so they're going to fall off if I stand up. I lost some weight and I couldn't find my belt. So I'm sitting here. If you want to go away, make me run in place. I'm probably going to get some bad reviews on my jiggly ass.
All of a sudden, Ilse stands up. She's like, all right, guys, me and the stoned daisies are about to run in place for 30 seconds. Stands up. Whoop, oh, my bad.
God is my pants.
Oh, my God. That would not be
sorry
good.
For the mental picture, people. I am so sorry.
Oh, whatever. So Bob Seymour has a great comment here, and it goes along with what we're going to be talking about a little bit. But he's performed 4 funerals for 16. He's performed funerals for 6 teenagers since the pandemic started. I just don't want that to be getting anybody riled up, because I know I can easily do that with certain words. But Bob, I know what you're saying, and I love you. I'm just reading it the way the news would read it. Since the scandemic started, they were victims of psychological and warfare being waged against our personal liberty. And the thing is, you're seeing suicide rates go up in such huge. Oh, the new juice diet working fast for new juice diet is working fast for Ilse. Yeah, actually, I have to be honest, guys. I received 4 different people's text messages that they actually went out and bought veggies or bought a juicer or actually started juicing. Well, they did stuff to get ready to start doing this and pushing themselves. That made me excited.
That's what I'm doing over the weekend as well, because we need to start by Saturday. Hey,
I know.
11 days. Yes. So I also tomorrow I'm gonna look for a juicer, because I don't have one. So I must look for a juicer and then sort that out as well.
Don't you have a arms? You could just use your arms, squish it.
Okay, yeah, I never thought of that. My superhuman powers.
What do you do for a hobby? I juice from my hands. My nickname is Arnold Juice Amanda.
Ilse. It's a German name, and it's a German name, so it just sounds like someone strong.
Someone strong is coming along. So we have coming up in the next minute one of our favorite people in the world. She has a great personality. She has about 14,772 kids right now. Hopefully she can hold off on having one while we're on air, but who knows?
You're gonna go visit her and she's gonna slap you so hard.
I'm expecting that. She's gonna be like, Brandon, I need to just TikTok this, and it's gonna be like one of those. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! I'm just excited to have her here. She's been gone for 2 months. She comes with an energy of positivity, enlightenment, and her husband's nickname is the Big D. There's nothing else you can want in life than a Big D. Ladies and gentlemen, Jessica Dugas.
Good morning.
Look at the smile. She's glad to be back. She's glad to be here. We have the phone number at the bottom. Don't forget to join her number, her Discord, text, email, love, ask for nude pictures of the big D, and you will not get anything back. Trust me, I've asked. I've never gotten one back. I'm very grateful for that. Guys, Jessica Dugas right here. Hi, Jess. How are you, sweetie?
Hi, good to be back. It's good to see you guys, and I'm excited to get to share the screen with Ilse today. Brandon, I know you, but I'm excited to be here with Ilse this morning.
Bye, Brandon. I'm so excited to share the screen with you too. It's our first one, so
I know. I've really enjoyed seeing you on the show, and it's been a great, fun, new energy going on, and it's enjoyable.
That means a lot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So now, Jessica, we're trying to make Ilse smile today. She's having one of those days, and I don't want to call it out like that, like I've done the first half hour, but we're going to keep going with it because she's smiling now.
Listen, here's what I have to say about that. I have coined myself oftentimes of being like the queen of positivity. I really have, I'm a glass half full kind of person. I tend to see the, good morning, everybody, by the way. I tend to see the good in people that maybe other people don't see the good in them, or try to see the flip side of the coin. But I think that there's something incredibly beautiful and raw and brave when a person can just emote and feel and not have to smile and not have to, because there's joy in my joy sign that I shared this morning. There's joy to be found in that as well, and being able to feel the privilege that we have as humans to get to feel a range of emotions is joyful and beautiful in itself. So that's all.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Like, she comes in, I love Jessica because she has this way of making sure she puts the boundary out there right away. Like yesterday, she came on and we had, oh my God, we had Cootie on, and we all got cooties. I love that
cooties.
Give me cooties. I loved cooties energy. Jessica's emailing me before the show. She goes, hey, I'm going to be backstage. I'm going to just say hi. And I go, don't worry, I'll bring you on because you can say hi to everybody. And she goes, first off, I didn't put my makeup on yet. There's no way I can do that. Second off, I don't want to be on air when I go on the next day. Third, I do not have time when I have 17,000 kids running around me like this.
Okay. Wow. Brandon is the king of fish stories. If y'all haven't figured that out yet, I mean.
Oh my God, I'm sweaty. I'm going to turn around. Fish stories. Did you want to come on air?
I didn't yesterday morning, but all of the other stuff you said was the fish stuff.
One of those things were true. The rest of them
one.
And it was the makeup. She goes, I don't have makeup on. I'm not going on air.
I put my face on that, and I didn't have to yesterday. And listen, ever since I've been off, one of the things that I've come back with is a real strong sense of boundaries. And it may come off at times, like Jessica just says no to everything, but I really have had to be very mindful of my time and of my energy. And I had made a commitment to myself a couple years ago. I said, I'm just not going to do anything that doesn't bring me joy anymore. And I know that sounds really frou-frou to a lot of people of going, well, we have to do things that we don't like to do sometimes. Yes, but not in my work. I don't. No.
And at the same point, I think it needs to be explained. You did have COVID. You did test as positive. Your whole family did. Yeah. And it really has influenced how you function after that. Mm-hmm. It really has. It is. I've spoke with you this entire 2 months, and I've seen Jessica. I've gotten on the phone with her, and her be like, Brandon, and within 5 minutes you can hear she's tired, and I know that's not her, and that's not insulting, Jess. That's me saying how much it affected you. And she is literally getting herself back up, getting herself going. Now I think of someone like Fuck Joe. Oh, I use my F word because of him now. But him, I literally saw him, who is a workout guy, who does cardio, who is insane into knowing what his body does. When he got COVID, that poor guy just broke. Jessica's healing is about what his was, and he still 5 months later is having trouble getting deep breaths.
That's what I want to just give everybody a little bit of perspective here. So I tested positive, my husband tested positive, and all 6 of my children also had COVID. And so that is a house of 8 people with COVID at the same exact time. It's enough to be sick on your own, but then to have to be that person that is expected to be the mother and hold it all together and keep everybody, healthy and well. And I can't even take care of myself. It was a struggle. And I also, I want to give a little bit of hope, because there is a lot of rhetoric going on that people who have pre-existing conditions and or have issues with obesity are automatically doomed from COVID. In fact, that was my situation. I am considered obese, and I am considered to be a person who had a list of pre-existing conditions from before COVID, and things that I'm actively working on. However, they are present. And even a response that I had gotten from one of the physicians that I worked with throughout my healing was that of doom and gloom. It was this energy of, oh my God, you're going to die, kind of thing at the very beginning. And while it's not a word that they say, you can tell when someone's energy completely changes about, what you're experiencing. And while it was not fun, by any means, while I still am working through symptoms that are lingering, I'm considered to have long COVID at this point, is something that a lot of people have heard about in the news. I'm 100 times better than what I was. That Brandon's correct. There were days that I said one word and that was it. That was all I could do. But there's hope. What you're hearing of saying, people that have had these pre-existing things are automatically saying, oh, I wish I had done this, that, or whatever. That's not necessarily the case. I never had to be hospitalized. I was never hospitalized, even though I had COVID and 2 drug reactions throughout this. I add on 2 drug reactions. And then it's just, it was a fierce determination. Like, I had stuff that I was planning before COVID, and I was like, body, you better get your act together, because I got shit to do. I got stuff to do right now.
But they say that works. They say it works when you talk to your body like that.
Yeah. And I just want to give people hope, because of the fact that you hear a lot of doom and gloom about, well, if you have pre-existing conditions, if you are overweight, you automatically are going to have issues. That's not necessarily the case. And so I think that fierce determination is really something. I mean, I have to shout out to my friend really quickly, Rory Kelly, who was a guest. She's a singer-songwriter. She was a guest on the Breakthrough Show, and she has a brand new album out right now called Shadow Work. You guys have got to check it out. But I was part of her Kickstarter campaign to put out this album, and she sent me, this was right at the peak of when I was feeling my worst during COVID. I got my buttons in the mail you got buttons if you helped with the Kickstarter and all of that. And the one of them said, "Can't keep this fucker down." And I literally, I'm not kidding you, I was laying on the couch, half undressed, head over a bucket with this pin on, of going, we're not doing this. Yeah. And it's that kind of attitude, I really think, that helped a lot.
I love that, Jess. I think that's a phenomenal way of looking at it. And you talked to your body saying, F you, no, I'm not going to do that. Sherry McQueen wants to know, are you using spirometer every day?
I don't even know what that is. I mean, I've heard it, but I can't even think in the moment of what that is. My brain's not.
I don't even know. I was like, I hope she knows what this is, because I don't. And then, if you only get one word a day when you're in COVID, did you choose wisely? What word did you choose? I knew when I called it was usually the F word. That's just
that's a wise choice.
It's my favorite.
That word was used often, and the phrase, well, shit.
I can see that.
Well,
100% could see that. Oh, man. Now, Jess, you were working on things, and you are planning something for coming up in the next few months. You have... Ilse, this is a fun one because Jessica is putting together a very... I'm sorry, I got to do this just because Jessica's here. Donald Jackson, woo, thank you for...
Sorry, Miss Jackson.
Woo, I am for
real.
Oh, I know what the thing Sherry asked now. I know what that is, and no, I don't use that. It's like the thing that you use to test your air when you have asthma.
So you go.
I do use a pulse oximeter regularly as part of my therapy that I'm doing with the applied neurology right now. So that's really the only medical tool that I use other than like my blood pressure monitor. That's it.
Interesting. So Jessica, tell us about your event coming up in December. I'm excited for it. Delight is a sponsor. They need to pay still, but Delight is a sponsor. Don't give me that look. Hold on. I got to do this. So Delight is a sponsor for this, for this concert. Maybe later. Phil's out of town. Don't be
I love you, honey, if you're watching.
Phil, don't fall for her. I love you, Mr. I found something new out about my husband, Phil. My husband, Phil, is Canadian. I now have dual citizenship, apparently. No,
You can have more than one husband.
So yes, I'm super excited about this event that we're planning. So you can go to a musicaleveningofgiving.com, a musicaleveningofgiving.com. So when I was a teenager, our local mall had thank you guys for putting that in the comments. There was a mall near where I lived that had this event during the right between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you would buy a ticket for this event, and you would the mall would completely close down unless you had a ticket. And you could get in with the ticket, and they would have like carolers on every corner, and they would have like hot chocolate stands, and all the stores would have sales, and you could do your Christmas shopping, but it was like they had concerts and dancers and all these different things. And all of the ticket proceeds would go to charity. They gave all the tickets to charity, but you'd be like knocking out Christmas shopping, you'd be hanging out with friends, you'd be entertained and all of this stuff. And I had this moment, a couple months before I got COVID, and I was in the shower, and I have my best ideas in the shower, and I have nothing to write with, damn it. And
the steam, write it on the wall for the steam. I used to write my wife notes like that. We never had any groceries.
No wonder there was a communication problem.
Yeah. So we used to. So I'm thinking about this, that event just popped in my head in the shower, and like how fun it was. And then at the same time, I had also been thinking about how many amazing musicians we've had on the Breakthrough Show in the last couple of years. And I originally started including musicians in the show because for me, when I think about the breakthrough moments that I've had in my life, a song will pop into my head, like something that was popular at the time or got me through it or, helped me to heal in whatever kind of way. I will tie this into what we were just talking about. The really interesting thing while I had COVID is that there were moments that I couldn't talk, but I could sing. I couldn't speak without coughing. And I literally had a couple days where I was treating it like a musical. I literally would sing everything around my house, be like, grab me a water, please. Your mom is thirsty,
Like a Disney princess.
I totally was. And so, but anyway, music is healing, and the vibration of music that, you guys talked about vibration, I think a few episodes ago on the show, but the vibration changes things, and it can be such a healing thing. And so all of these ideas spinning while I'm in the shower. And I'm like, what if I did something like this? What if I did a virtual event where we could give back to good organizations, but be entertained, do a little holiday shopping? And how does this look? So I thought, Jaybird. So
I don't even see it yet.
I'm so squirreled at the moment. So I thought this would be a great idea. So I said, well, let's do a lineup of the amazing people that have been on the show, of musicians, and we'll give everybody that buys a ticket some discount codes to do their holiday shopping and maybe some swag and stuff like that. And we'll give the proceeds to charity. And so that's what I started planning. And then I had this whole moment of, well, who the hell are you to do something like this? Like, nobody's going to come. Nobody, nobody's going to think it's worthy, whatever. And when I looked at the work that I have a couple amazing friends, Brett Weiss, that is the CEO of the Weiss Scholarship Foundation, and also Oleg Lohid, who is the CEO of, or the president of, Overcoming Odds. When I looked at the work that they were doing in the world, and I said, look, we have a real opportunity to help people here. And so I chose them as our beneficiaries of the event, and all of the 100% of the ticket proceeds are being split evenly between Overcoming Odds and the Weiss Scholarship Foundation. And we're going to listen to amazing music, and we're going to have fun. I just had another artist sign up today, so the website is actually even missing a person. But we have Olivia Ambani, the Ted Yoder Band, Rory Kelly that I just mentioned about her new album, Abby Miracle, Lisa Pinnock, Kevin Kiley, which everybody loves some Kevin Kiley, and Greg Lennon, and also Ray Coates that you had on Java.
I love Ray.
Is signed up now too.
Ray is amazing. We've actually become friends on social media because of this. So, yeah. Jessica, there's a question for you here. Do you actually use garlic and cinnamon for your blood pressure? And I thought that was a good question.
Those are regulars in I think we've established here on the show that I am plant-based. Our family's vegan. And so I know everybody fall over. I think we've established that in the last year though. However, those are things that are part of my regular diet almost daily. Yeah. So, but I don't take supplements of those because I feel like those are things that are best in their whole food forms, as long as you're getting organic, and good quality products.
I agree. I was asked a question here. Brandon is wearing a tie. He must have an interview later. I do. I'm interviewing a wonderful human being. His name is going to be Mark Henick. I should probably write that down so I don't have to hit the bio.
Is it going to be?
It's going to be. It might.
You're naming him.
I am.
You might rename him.
I'm changing it to Mark Henick with a C instead of a K. That's right. What you want about that? But Mark's given many TED Talks about mental health and suicide awareness. He's written a book. He's had over 3.4 million views on his TED Talk. So for me, I'm someone with the mental health stuff that I love to talk about. I'm super excited. I wore a tie so I look handsome for him. I wanted to look my best. So maybe he'll be like, get that pink mother effer on a TED Talk. That's my goal. At the end of this episode, I want him to offer me a TED Talk. Maybe we change the name to Bed Talk, and I just lay in bed and talk to people all day.
Brandon's TED Talk is going to be called Rain in the Squirrels.
I'm out with my mom the other day. We're at lunch, and she and I are just talking and having a good time. And my mom goes, you really are. You don't pay attention, do you? And I'm like, I pay attention. I just see everything going on around me. It's not my fault. You and Dad were squirrels and made me, okay? Like, geez. My mom did not think me evolving from squirrels was way as funnier as I did. Brandon has an interview for his OnlyFans. He has become a top 5 content producer. Follow me on OnlyFans. It's the Bear Care Bear. Or no, there's no the.
The Bear Care.
Yeah, I'm Bear Care Bear. And both of them are spelled the opposite. So you don't know which part of me is naked, the top or the bottom. He gave me that private interview later. Shh, stop telling everybody about our secret interviews. Jeez Louise, guys. Brett Gordon says everything is energy and frequencies, including humans and viruses. The key is to tune into and inundate our site. Guys, I'm sorry. My eyes are bad and I have to read slow, and Jessica's laughing at me. Her face is right above it. It makes it harder on me. I'm nervous now. Inundate ourselves with healing, positive, protective, balancing frequencies. 100%. You have to watch yourself. Slow down, Brandon. See? The squirrel came in and now I'm nervous. Jessica's face, I'm like reading it. It's right below Jessica's face and I see this. I'm like, how do I read when I know Jessica's judging every word I'm saying?
Hello, Mike Herzog, my fellow Pikachu chaser.
He and I have only chased Pikachus once in my life, Jessica, and it was with him. Him over there.
I can't wait till you come and we can go chase Pikachus together.
I have a feeling I'm going to be downloading an app while I'm down there. Going to be like, oh,
and I won't have anything to do with that. That'll be completely the peer pressure from the Big D.
How tall is the Big D again? I got to ask. Do I have to worry about the Big D looking down on me? Do I wear a tie for the Big D? Do I have to shave my head for the? Oh my God! There's so many things for the D.
The Big D usually looks down at everyone. He's over 6 foot tall, so he's a foot taller than me.
Yeah, but you're like 5 foot. Like
I'm a baby T-Rex.
So we talked about this earlier on the show, and I want to know. Jessica and I were talking. My mom has diabetes, and she likes to sneak chocolates. So she asked my dad and I to help her by not having chocolates around. But we still had chocolate in the house, and I still need chocolate. I straight, okay? I know when that happens, I need to eat my chocolates. But I literally, I watch her face, and I love making you two laugh. But we moved everything, and my mom is 5 foot nothing. So we put everything on the top shelf. Like, for real, just so she'd be out of reach. When you go downstairs and you see your mom, who's frail as can be because she's been through a lot in her life and had to raise me, she's on top of a swivel chair going, trying to get these peanut M&Ms. I'm like, Moo, what are you doing? And she's like, I only want one. I gave her one of each color. Why? Because she deserved the rainbow. But at the same point, stop chasing your chocolates. If they're out of reach.
Mrs. Croucher.
Uh-oh.
First of all, my apologies for your son right now. Second of all, I can relate because I am also a baby T-Rex. I have little short, round body, little tiny arms. I walk around like this. I cannot reach anything. Mm-hmm. And these assholes in my house put literally everything they can on the top shelves.
Yeah. There's nothing other than what you need on the bottom shelves. Don't be mad that we've taken care of you like this to make it where, I'm sorry, how do you get a longer tongue? You stretch it. How do you get longer arms? You stretch them. Your family's trying to stretch you out, Jess, to grow. I picture Jessica running around her house. She's like, I can't reach things.
I had to have my son.
I'm also short.
I had to have my son come in here and turn my own office light on before this show because I couldn't do it. Donnell, you better not be treating my girl Angelic like that now. Don't let me find that out.
Because I don't want to be going, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Woo! Donnell is gone. Jessica came and took him out. Yes, she does it.
Speaking of Donnell, I have to give a little shout out really quickly because Donnell Jackson and his beautiful wife Angelic, the Jacksons, the only Jacksons that matter, are going to be on a brand new show on the Breakthrough Show Network every other Wednesday, beginning, I believe, September 8th. And it's called Divine DNA. And they're going to be see DNA, Donnell, and Angelic.
I didn't even catch it.
See?
Them or you?
And they did.
Donnell, you just became my favorite on the Breakthrough Network. Jessica dropped a whole level because of that. All right.
It's called Divine DNA. They're going to be talking about relationships from a couple's perspective, and they're an open book. I love them. They are some of my people that I met on TikTok a while back, and we just became good friends. And I said, listen, we need you on the Breakthrough Show Network. And so brand new show coming in September.
Now, tell me a little bit about this. If I'm single, am I allowed to watch this show?
Yes.
Will they hook me up with anybody?
Probably not.
Damn.
I mean, you could ask. Maybe Donnell, would you like to take live callers on the show and do a little matchmaking?
Do you want to play matchmaker, Donnell? We'll play. I'll be like, contestant number 1. Do you like to eat ice cream? I'm vegan. Oh, no, then. Goodbye.
He's thinking about it.
I would be a fun guest. I would be the guy you want on either side. Think about that. Like, contestant number 1. Yes.
Listen, I had such a good memory the other day. My grandfather loved to watch The Love Connection with Chuck Woolery back. Okay, a minute. It is a thought, right? Right, Donnell? It's a thought. Okay, so he used to love to watch that show. And do you know Chuck Woolery, before going to the break, he used to say, we'll be back in 2 and 2 for the commercial time, 2 minutes, 2 seconds. My grandfather started doing that every time he would leave the damn room. He'd be like, I'll be back in 2 and 2.
I like that.
Did they ever need to take number 2?
I mean, we didn't ask questions like that in our family. You just do what you got to do.
I'm sorry. Did you watch yesterday's episode?
I did. Amy and I are best friends now. She just doesn't know it. We're just best friends in my head.
I'm best friends with all of you and you don't even know it.
You don't even know that her and I were talking backstage and I warned her about you. I'm like, Jessica's a little bit of a stalker sometimes. Like, that's how she works with us. I'm like, seriously, everybody thinks I'm in my parents' house. I'm in Jessica's basement. Her and the Big D trap me down. At least let me decorate. Like...
I'm sending my location.
Yeah, quickly texting it to Elsa. Elsa's looking at her phone. She's like, he expects me to go to Alabama from South Africa? No. Jessica Dugas, this weekend we have a lot of fun things coming up. We have a lot happening this week. Tomorrow's show might get a little out of hand. I want to warn everybody a little bit. I'm picking up my niece and my sister from the airport today. They're flying in from Texas. My other sister and her boyfriend and their 2 huge dogs are coming in tonight. So tomorrow morning, I might be back here and have a 9-year-old niece with me. And then, knowing my luck, something else will come in. 1 of the dogs, 2 of the dogs. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but it's going to be fun. They're all coming in. I have a very heavy weekend, but I get to see a lot of family. And while this is going to be an emotional weekend for me, it's one that therapeutic. It's going to be very good because everybody's going to be able to say their goodbyes and give the love that they need. And it's bringing family together. Yes, Brian, my sister lives in Austin, Texas. She is right on the west part of Austin, Texas, a small city out there. I don't know the name of it.
The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. I can't help it. Every time someone says Texas, it's like a switch that flips on.
Oh my God. Jessica's like, oh, I got it. Brandon will bring you in about 3 to 4 minutes. Guys, don't forget, Mark Henick is here. Henick is here. He is going to be, I've already changed the spelling of his name, so it fits me. He's got a C instead of a K now. Hope you don't mind, Mark. And if you do, don't worry. We're going to blame Jessica Dugas. We're going to blame Jessica later because I understand. Just go with it. Jessica Dugas, you have a what are you up to this, Brandon? It will be a Brandon circus. Sorry, ADD. Jessica Dugas, what do you have planned this weekend, and how do you want to make Ilse smile before you leave?
Well, I've already made Elsa smile. I mean, Elsa and I have a girl bonding thing happening here. Exactly. So You just hush. So after the break, after Java Delight today at 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern, Ask Crystal is coming up on the Breakthrough Show Network. So make sure y'all go right from Java to Ask Crystal. And then tonight, we have One Square at a Time is at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. And
Perfect.
then right after that, Kevin Kiley and I are back for Throwback Thursday. We're talking about 80s Disney tonight. And you may or may not hear me actually sing a Disney princess song. So I just put that out there really quickly. And then tomorrow we have, of course, Java in the morning. And then we have the Breakthrough Show coming up at 12 o'clock with Tasha Hunter, who's a social worker, and also my personal applied neurology practitioner, Elizabeth Kristoff. She was the one that got me started with applied neurology before I started using it for COVID. I was using it for other things before. So it's super interesting. And you're going to actually get to try some drills while we are on the show. This weekend, I'm going to relax. Is what I'm doing this weekend, because this has been the first full week back for me. And I'm busy and it feels good. But it's busy with things that bring me joy. And if I could do a really quick, super quick shout out, 15 seconds.
Deal.
Okay, so I've talked about my brother Adam on the show that passed away 11 years ago. He was engaged when he passed away to a beautiful woman, Cheryl Ebbinghaus. And Cheryl passed away 3 years ago, as I mentioned when I was on the show to talk about it before. Today would have been Cheryl's 36th birthday. And she was an amazing human being. So I want to send love to her dad, Charlie, and her sister, Alicia, today on what would have been her birthday. I know you guys are honoring her memory, and I just want to leave with that today.
Am I supposed to sing or anything?
No.
Okay, thank God. We all know how that sounds. Whew, I was worried about that. So, Jessica Dugas over at the Breakthrough Network, you came, you brought the joy today. We're going to be able to see you later tonight at the, say it again, Throwback Thursdays.
Thursday.
And we're doing 90s?
We're doing 80s Disney tonight. Next month, we do 90s Disney.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited. 80s Disney is going to be awesome. Too bad Aladdin's in the 90s. I would sing with you then. I would be like, a whole new. Okay, no singing.
I believe Kevin and I are doing that next month.
Aladdin. I love Aladdin. One of my favorites.
We shall see.
Jessica, don't go anywhere, guys. We have Mark Henick coming on. He is a TED Talk speaker. He talks about suicide, mental health. He is at over 3.4 million views. We are honored that he is not just coming on to talk to us today, but he's going to bring a wealth of knowledge and help us be able to build a best future for all of ourselves individually. So, guys, don't go anywhere. Here's a word from our sponsor, Delight Cafe. Thanks, Jess.
Hi, my name is Brandon, and over the past year, the Delight Cafe team and I traveled across the U.S. researching this rapidly growing industry of CBD products. What we have found throughout the industry were products that were inconsistent in dosage and used ingredients that weren't even lab tested. Products with chalky textures, bitter aftertaste, and worst of all, confusion among the CBD consumers. That's why we created Delight Cafe. A 15 milligram lab-tested, all-natural, water-soluble hemp CBD powder pack. It's odorless, colorless, and tasteless. Add it to your favorite drink of choice, wherever, whenever, on the go. Quickly find your calm, your balance, your delight when you need it most.
And we're back. Mark Henick, everybody. How are you, Mark?
Hello, I'm very well. How are both of you?
I'm good, thanks. How you doing?
Sorry, Elsa.
How are you?
I should have asked you one at a time how you're doing, so that way it would make more sense, but here we are.
It's all good. So, Mark, you have wrote a book that I am obsessed with right now because I really love to talk about mental health and bring awareness to this. But you wrote a book called So-Called Normal, a memoir of a family, depression, and resilience. And it came out this year. How on earth did you know this was something you were going to do, and why did you start this?
You know, that's a great question. And I think this book has been inside me for all of my life, and particularly for the last few years that it's been rattling around in my head. And it really traces, I think it's my effort to try to trace and understand my own trauma as a child growing up in a broken home and surrounded by uncertainty every day. Really tracking the progression of my mental illness, what ended up becoming major depressive disorder, social anxiety disorder, and repeated suicide attempts. I was in and out of hospital more than half a dozen times. And those are some of the stories that I shared in my TEDx talk, which ended up going viral all around the world. You mentioned it. But I wanted people to know, I think, that my story isn't the fact that I've tried to kill myself. My story is actually the fact that I haven't, and that I've had a long, full, beautiful life ever since that moment on a bridge when a complete stranger stopped me and saved my life. My entire life changed since that moment, and I owe everything to him.
So I've watched your TED Talk, and this complete stranger did this. Can you tell us how that really did influence you? Because that's a very rare thing nowadays. You don't hear about people actually connecting in that way, especially when someone's in that state. I'm grateful you're here with us, because truthfully, the fact that you're here means you have a story still to tell and you're inspiring others. So thank you, Mark. Tell us about that stranger and how that moment was for you. And like, that's a life-changing thing. What happened there?
Yeah, I had been struggling with depression by that point for 3 or 4 years, I think, at least explicitly. I was diagnosed when I was 12, but I think I'd been struggling, for several years before that. And I felt like I had gotten to a point where I had talked to all these doctors and, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, guidance counselors, priests, anybody who would listen to me. And I felt like nobody could help me. I felt like they all treated me, it seemed, in that place in my head, and maybe it was real, I don't know, but they treated me like a broken down car on the side of the road, like a problem to be fixed, as though I were broken. So that's what brought me to that bridge that night. I had become so vulnerable that the triggers almost didn't even matter anymore. When you're carrying so much, it can take sometimes very little to push you into that automatic mode. So I had gone to this bridge late at night. I had a plan. I was going to jump off in that place because in my hometown in Sydney, Nova Scotia, on the east coast of Canada, there was an old steel plant. And it used to be, it used to provide the livelihood for my whole hometown. Everybody used to work there or be connected with it in some way. But by the time I was growing up, the plant was closed or about to close. Everybody had lost their jobs. It was a toxic waste site. It's one of the worst toxic waste sites in North America, in fact. And I think I went to that place because I felt like I didn't have any people in my life who could understand that that's how I felt inside. But this place kind of got that. So that's why I went there, and I climbed up over the railing, and I was ready to die. And then this stranger pulls up behind me. He talks to me, and not in a very clinical or professional way. I remember that very distinctly. And he just created that space for me to express myself. He didn't judge me. He didn't tell me not to do it, that it was stupid or sinful or bad or any of these things. He didn't try to fix all my problems for me. He couldn't anyway. But he listened. And I felt like that is what really helped me to move on from there. And many years later, I was able to actually find that stranger and thank him for what he did for me that night.
That's literally what I just wrote down. Do you still have contact? Did you ever talk to them and thank them? Because for real, that's something that would be, I think you create a bond with one another when they did that. Ilse, do you have a question? Because I have like 7 written down already.
No, go quickly. You can go.
You have the next 2, deal? So just because I want to hit the one in particular, you mentioned carrying so much that the triggers didn't even get to you anymore. Like you just were there. How can a person know when they're carrying that much and they don't even realize it sometimes? How can they catch themselves that they're carrying a bunch of extra baggage?
Well, this is the tricky part. This is the insidious part of depression, or I think a wide range of mental illnesses, but especially depression, where it's so common. I grew up on the East Coast, Nova Scotia, and I guess the nearest equivalent in the States would be Maine. So there's a lot of lobster fisher people there, lobster fishermen. And so you learn from a very young age that when you cook a lobster, you put it into a pot of hot water. You don't put it into a pot of cold water and heat it up. Because it'll suffer longer as it acclimates to the heating water. And I use that analogy a lot when I think about depression, particularly if it comes on slowly and builds cumulatively, as mine did over many years. You don't really realize that things are changing and that you're making adaptations to just try to get through your life, and gradually they accumulate over time. And I think that's what happened for me, so that I didn't notice that I was as sick as I really was. One of the core concepts from my TED Talk that people really grabbed onto was this idea of the perceptual collapse that happens in this place, or this cognitive rigidity that starts to set into your mind, where these blinders come on, and it's a very adaptive evolutionary thing. You're in a self-preservation mode, so you block out everything else that's happening around you. But unfortunately, what that means is that you're blocking out the stuff that could help you too. You're dismissing it, or you're not even hearing or seeing it. And I think that's very much into the place that I had gotten. So what I suggest to people, and what I try to do into myself, is to be willing to be wrong more. That when you're really into a place where you feel like my life is awful, I'm really struggling and nothing will ever get better, why not try to challenge yourself and say, well, what if it actually can? Or what if I try this? Or what if we go down this route instead? I think that when you start to introduce more ambiguity into your life, more uncertainty, believe it or not, because that's sometimes what we're most afraid of, that's what helps to start to unlock that tightness a little bit, leaning into that uncertainty.
I love that. So vulnerability.
I think we have to be vulnerable, and this is why it's the two sides of depression, right? I think in some ways we're so afraid of vulnerability. We're so afraid of getting hurt more or getting hurt again, and we're already hurting. We don't want to be hurt more, so we don't want to take that risk. So we shut down and we shut people out and we run away because we think we can't take it anymore. And it turns out, though, you're a lot stronger than you think you are. And resilience is only actually built through practice. I learned how to recover by failing, by falling, by getting hurt, and then getting back up again over and over and over again. And it's you can't do that without support too, though, right? If you're in that journey alone, it's a whole lot harder than if you have some supportive people who have your back.
Do you still get days where you feel that things are a bit too much, and how do you get through those dark days? Because your mental health it's a long journey, and it's not just okay, now I'm fine and I don't want to commit suicide anymore. I mean, to put myself there, I've not taken the step, but the thoughts have crossed my mind more than once, where you think maybe the world will just be better without me.
Sure. And you know what? This is so common. People don't realize how common the wide spectrum of suicidal thinking and behaviors really is. I think most people, this touches most people in some way or another, even if they haven't survived suicide attempts or lost a loved one for that matter. But I still deal with some of these thoughts sometimes, but now I have a different relationship with them. And I think that's what's key. I've been... and it's a practice. It takes time and hard work, but you learn to realize that you are not your thoughts over time, that your thoughts are data points, that it's actually okay. If I have a transient thought of suicide now, I can kind of, and it comes through partly my mindfulness practice as well, kind of see it and watch it and say, oh, I know what that is. And look at it go. And then I'm able to let it go because you don't cling to it. And I think this is part of that. It relates back to that idea of cognitive rigidity. Sometimes we feel a feeling or we think a thought and we think it is absolutely 100% must be true because I thought it and I'm right all the time, I guess. Instead, I think we can just view these experiences as data points. And that's what's been helpful in my recovery ultimately. And it took me a long time to be able to create that separation between my experiences and my identity.
Thank you.
Sorry, I muted myself so I don't interrupt her. If there's a gap in space, I take it. So words and thoughts matter. When we say things like my depression, we solidify ownership of those things in our mind. The mind is the battleground, and if we don't control the narrative, we lose. I want to run with that for a second because you mentioned support. And sometimes our support system doesn't notice we're saying those negative things. They just feed into it. How do you help yourself to build the best Mark with your support system around you, knowing that they're wanting the best for that too?
Well, I think that starts with understanding other people a little bit better and being able to put yourself in their shoes a little bit. I think there's two reasons why people either react negatively or not at all to people who are struggling. And I'll say, in writing my book, really going back through my story, I noticed that the vast majority of people, probably 80% of people, were either neutral or, they didn't really know what to do, or they tried to help a little bit and they didn't know how. A relatively small number of them were actively antagonistic toward me, though there were some for sure. And that seemed like everybody at the time. But on reflection, they were probably a few loud people. And I think what's happening in those circumstances is twofold. One, they don't understand. They just don't have the content knowledge, the factual knowledge about what you're experiencing, because they've never been taught it either. We still don't do a good job of teaching mental health in schools. We still don't do a good enough job of thinking about it and talking about it in society and media, although we're doing better now than we were when I was growing up. And the other side of it, though, and I think this is actually more empathetic, or you can understand it better with some empathy, which is that people are scared. When you talk about death in particular, or you talk about your struggles, it brings up people's own struggles in them. It makes them reflect on their own mortality or their own challenges, and they don't like to do that either. It turns out they're human too, just like you. And, I see this with parents all the time. Sometimes parents can't recognize that their kid, their teenager usually, is suicidal, because what parent would want to think about their kid dying? So I think they block it out as a possibility, and that is completely normal. So I think that what we need to do then, as observers, as bystanders, is to more actively train ourselves, educate ourselves, correct ourselves if we have stigmatizing beliefs, and be more willing to actually have those uncomfortable conversations. If you think that somebody's suicidal, ask them, are you thinking about killing yourself? You're not going to give them the idea to do it as though they had never thought of it before. That's not how these things work. But have those direct conversations and have uncomfortable conversations. It, in fact, could save people's lives.
What signs can parents look for in teenagers that if they don't know what about the suicide and stuff? What things can they look for to make sure that their children are safe?
Yeah, and I think this applies not only to teenagers, though that is certainly a risk area, but I think people going through any major life transition, we should watch for this, and that might mean phases of life. We know that middle-aged men are actually one of the highest risk group for suicide. Or people going through major life changes circumstantially, job loss, for example, the death of somebody that they love, or the birth of somebody for that matter as well. So major life changes can be these really sensitive periods or critical periods as well to watch for changes. And then, you're kind of paying attention for two things. How much of this is expected given the circumstance? Sometimes reactions associated with depression or anxiety, if you actually look at the situation the person is in, it's like, yeah, of course they're depressed. Of course they're anxious. Look at what they're going through. So I think we need to do a better job of appreciating social circumstances and not just rushing to pathologize everything as something wrong with that person's brain. Circumstance matters a lot. But then also watch for if they're having what most people would consider abnormal reactions to those circumstances, or if a situation happens and they're still holding on to it longer than they quote unquote should. I put that in air quotes because timelines look different for everybody. But that's when it starts to become an issue, when it interferes with somebody's life. So in teenagers, for example, you notice that they're isolating more, they're talking more or joking more about suicide or death. People find all kinds of ways to telegraph what they're feeling, even if they don't explicitly say it. Certainly, if they're highly emotional, now there are, of course, hormonal changes in teenage years anyway. So to a degree, that flexibility in their emotions is expected, but to extreme degrees. If you notice that they are explicitly making plans, for example, making notes, or if they seem to be gravitating toward media that relates to suicide, all of these could be red flags that you just want to inquire further about. And if you don't know what to do, that's okay. Reach out to a professional who does.
With that being said, as we dive into mental health, with how do we teach others about mental health without it becoming that trendy type of thing and people take it seriously? I say that as someone who I've attempted as well. And I know that personally, my dad was someone that came around and was like, oh, you're just wanting attention. And that really wasn't it. And there's a lot of people that still think things like that with mental health. And then there's others that are still looking for themselves. And I'm not saying they do this to make it trendy or anything, but they're looking to figure out who they are and they're wanting that. How do we make sure we're actually connecting with people and bringing out the mental health seriousness to bring out the best in others?
Yeah, so I want to touch first on that attention-seeking piece, because I think it's a very, very common stigma around mental health, and particularly around suicidal type behaviors, or even non-suicidal self-injury like you see in borderline personality disorder, for example, or a number of other conditions. I would encourage everybody to reframe the language of attention seeking toward connection seeking, because that's what that person is lacking. That's what that's the hole that they're desperately trying to fill, that we're desperately trying to fill, is some sort of meaningful connection with others. But also, just as a thought experiment, entertain the idea that they are attention seeking and ask yourself the question, what's wrong with that? Are they so desperate for your attention that they're willing to die for it? And is your attention that valuable of a resource that you can't just give it to them for a little while? I would ask anybody to challenge themselves to that effect, because we get so defensive when we think that somebody's trying to steal our attention away. Meanwhile, we're scrolling through Facebook and every passing post grabs our attention just fine, and we don't rage against that, depending on the post. So that's a key piece there, or a key linguistic shift that I think that people need to entertain. The other piece there too, I think, is really looking at other areas of your life where you may be explicitly or implicitly stigmatizing against people, how you talk to people and how you frame your conversations around mental health. And we can only really do that, I think, through sharing stories and through consuming and listening to stories. We know that contact-based education, when we talk to people who have been there themselves, is one of the most effective ways to break down stigma. So that's why I'm so passionate about storytelling, not because I want everybody to know my story. That was never the point of my TED Talk. It's not the point of my book, even though my publisher put my face on the cover. I asked them not to, but they actually, anyway. But because the point is, it's actually not about me. It's not supposed to be about me. That was never the point. The point is to use myself as a case study to point toward broader issues, to show how these issues manifest, but not in a clinical data numbers way. That stuff is important, but in a human way. What does this really look like? And everybody, I think, can share that kind of story. So I think everybody should.
With that being said, I'm curious. You made the comment about how middle-aged men, and I'm 38 right now, and I was diagnosed with severe depression, bipolar 2 disorder at the age of 27, which they said was young. And it's a struggle. There's days I don't want to move, and I know you understand that, and that's why I come on here and do this. I even wore a tie for you today. I saw myself in the reflection. I wore this. I literally put this on because I'm like, I have a TED Talker coming on today. I got to look nice. So, Mark, with all of this going on, is there anything you can connect that maybe you see men are having these statistics, but we're also the ones not talking about it? And we're the ones that it's almost insulting for men to say, I have a mental health issue. how can we break that stereotype? How can we push to help not just men, but everybody? But I'm using men as the analogy because they do have the higher statistics right now. How can we break that? And how can we bring that attention to people in a good way?
Look, culture is the air that we breathe around us. It's the messages that are telegraphed to men and women and people of all genders, how they are supposed to be in society, who they're supposed to love, what they're supposed to say, how they're supposed to dress, the things that they're supposed to study or work at that give them value. What if we were all, each of us, just to shift that a little bit and realize that people have value just because they're people? That it doesn't matter what condition they have or who they love or how they dress or what job they have or education they have. They're just people, that we should respect people because they're people. And I think that when we make that general shift in our own consciousness to move away from judging people, to move away from telling them how they should be to make me feel more comfortable, that they should behave in a way that makes me comfortable. That's putting myself on a bit of a pedestal, right? When in fact, I can be uncomfortable, that's okay, and I can learn. And why I say that is because that's what creates the space, the acceptance that people need to be themselves and to work through these issues. That we tell men all the time, either directly or not, that it's not okay to cry, that it's not okay to be emotional, that it's not okay to be a mess. I've cried on more stages and cameras and than I can count. It's like for a while, I was like, I'm just a guy that people put on TV to cry, I guess. And because that's just who I am. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Sometimes it's sad. Sometimes it's kind of angry. But I think that's who we need to be. We need to be ourselves. And that's what would help men, I think, to realize that it's, and women and anybody, that it's okay just to be yourself. And it's not always going to be pretty. It's going to be a mess sometimes. And that's okay too.
I realize that sometimes I get upset because I'm too emotional. There's some things that just trigger me that like makes me too emotional and I can't talk. It's just tears and can't figure it out and everything. So I think that's a good point for people that aren't used to expressing their emotions and stuff in front of other people. But coming back to if after you've now picked up signs and everything, what can you do to help a teenager or anybody that if you picked up that they're suicidal, what can we do to help that person?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing that I always suggest to people is talk to them. You're going to do that little conversation, just watching bit, just to see what it is that's actually going on. Because there's kind of two possible routes there. One is that there actually is something going on. The other possible route is that there's actually something going on with you and you're projecting it into the situation. Not to get too psychoanalytic about it, but sometimes we see in the world that which we feel and are. So if you're really angry, it turns out everybody else is really angry and cranky. No, maybe you're just not in a good place. So there's that possibility. Now, that said, though, you're in a pretty good place. You're not projecting all your own stuff onto other situations. Maybe there really is something going on. Ask that person. You don't have to torture yourself about it. Just have a real conversation. And either they're going to deny it, and that means either there is nothing, or there is, and they just don't feel safe to say. That's okay too. That's super common. But what they're storing away when you asked authentically and vulnerably and out of a place of real caring was that, oh, that person actually does care. And people have memories. They store those little data points away so that eventually, ideally cumulatively, when you continue to express your caring, they will open up to you at some point. Or they disclose that they, in fact, are really struggling. Maybe they're even suicidal. One of the number one reasons that people have told me that they don't reach out to others if they fear that they're suicidal is that, what if they say yes? Then what do I do? Well, then you get somebody in place who can help. And there's a few ways you can do that. If the person is willing, they can, and if there's not too much risk present, in other words, I mean, they're not using substances, they don't have access immediately to means with which they can end their lives. There's a number of risk factors in play. But if you're able to get them to a doctor on their own, to talk to their doctor on their own, that's the best way. at the end of the line, if I've driven people to the hospital myself and I've waited there with them myself because they want somebody there with them, understandably. For me, it's a last recourse to call EMS, to call 911. But that said, it's always on the table for me too. There are some people who will tell you never ever call 911 because the situation can go sideways, right? Especially if it's a marginalized or racialized population or individual rather, that could become a dangerous situation really quickly. But that said, I think you can come into those situations with a bit of knowledge of informing 911, that this person isn't a risk to anybody else. They're not going to hurt anybody. And I'm going to be here with them. That can be a way to support that person through it. But look, most people don't like having someone call 911 on them if they're suicidal. It's a traumatic experience, actually. But that said, I'd rather have somebody mad at me and alive than dead. So that's kind of sometimes you get down to that level of granularity. Working as a clinician and even just as a friend of people who have been suicidal, it takes a lot for me to get to that end stage. Most people actually do want help, but they want to be helped in a way that really resonates with them and that connects with them. So I guess long story short, you only really know that by having a conversation with them and by letting them know that you're not there to fix their problems, but you are in their corner. You're on their side and you're willing to help them find out the resources that will be best for them.
Through the years, there was a lot of suicide. In my family, not my family, my son's father's mother and her daughter committed suicide, and she killed her baby with her when she committed suicide, the daughter. So, and they always, or not they, people say that if people talk about suicide, then they're not going to do it. How true is that? Because I've heard that statement quite often when they say if people talk about suicide a lot, then it's just trying to get attention because people that want to commit suicide do not talk about it. How true is that?
That's not true at all. The old quote, if somebody tells you who they are, believe them. I think that applies here too. If somebody's talking about suicide, it means it's on their mind. And it means that there's something happening. They might not be, an experienced clinician will be able to do a proper risk analysis to see, is this person trying to get their needs met? And this is the only way they've learned how to do it. Sometimes that's the case, yes. Sometimes the risk isn't immediate, but the vast majority of people aren't qualified to make that kind of determination. So if somebody says that person isn't going to kill themselves, even though they're talking about it, my next question is, well, what the hell qualifications do you have to say that? Because you're not a doctor, you're not a psychologist, what do you know? Instead, just maybe, you're actually being a bit stigmatizing against that person. So I would take every risk of suicide seriously. You would want to have a conversation with that person to assess that risk and go through the very same process. They should absolutely talk to a professional to determine what the level of risk there is. And that's a good reminder for others that we shouldn't talk casually about something like suicide. This isn't a thought police or PC thing, or it's just that it actually clouds the way that we help other people if we have lots of people joking about suicide, diminishing it as a not serious issue. That clouds, I think, our efforts to help people who are really suicidal. So I think always take suicide seriously and offer help to that person in the best way that you know how.
I like Stuart's comment right here. Thank you for that, Mark. It says, my personal long-term depression and isolation led to lengthening and deepening psychosis. Finding understanding in others and contentment in life saved me. And I think that's very well said. With that being said, though, there's a lot of happening, especially around the world with COVID, and people are we just got through a lockdown, and the news still has a lot of things coming out that is almost fear-based. And I don't want to say it like that, but there's a lot of people who are still very scared that we're going to get locked down again and all that. Mm-hmm. Mental health is on the rise. Mark, what would be something we could tell people to help with when they start to have these mental health issues start to kick in, the depression, the anxiety? what would your advice be to them for not letting themselves fall into that trap?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I've been playing around with this idea in my mind, both in my mindfulness meditations and just theoretically. And it's this idea that you are not your circumstances, that sometimes we get so our core identity gets so diffused or so permeable that we seem to forget where we end and the rest of the world begins. And that's not to say the pandemic isn't hard. It's certainly wearing on me and everybody else, of course, it's difficult. It's objectively a difficult circumstance. But it doesn't take away that core self inside me, the me that I know who I am, and that all the other circumstances, the environment around me, the events that happen to me, that's all just other stuff. So I think that that's what helps me personally to remain resilient, is remaining in touch with that core me that I know that I am inside, and that I know that it doesn't matter where I am or what's happening, or some situations are going to be more challenging than others. There's no question. But at the end of the day, I still have a firm grasp of my core self. So I think that's actually a helpful outlook to have for social media in particular, or traditional media. If something isn't serving you, if it's not making you happy and making you a better person, then why are you doing it? If you're scrolling through Facebook and you're miserable, as research suggests, the more you use Facebook, it could be a cause or effect, we're not sure, but the more you use Facebook, the more depressed you're probably going to be. So then if you're scrolling through Facebook and you're into like 4 hours of it and you realize you're really not feeling very happy, make that connection. Oh, is something I'm doing not helping? And then stop doing that thing that's not helping. That I'm making it overly basic, of course, but I think in some ways we need to, in order to get some clarity in our life. There are things that are helping you in your life right now, and there are things that are not. And there are some things that are easy to fix, and there's some things that are more challenging. But I think it helps to kind of run through that inventory and have a better sense of what you need in your life, what you don't need in your life, and maybe what you should try to get into your life to make it better. And that's where coping skills come in, learning more about yourself, having more skills and tools in your tool belt to keep yourself resilient. At the end of the day, we've seen people thrive in the most challenging circumstances. And there's nothing, I would argue, genetically or neurologically different about thrivers versus people who are struggling. I think that they've been able to practice and unlock a way of being that is accessible to everybody.
Mark, with mental illness, often you see undiagnosed mental illness playing into the suicide situations. Is it important for anyone thinking of suicide to be fully evaluated?
Oh, I think so, because that's true. First of all, we know that rates of mental illness are staggeringly high. More than 20% of people, 20 to 25% of people in any given year are experiencing a mental health problem or illness, but the numbers are almost certainly higher than that. So we know that people are dying. More than 40,000 Americans every year, in fact, are dying by suicide. And a good chunk of them may not have been diagnosed, even though they probably were dealing with something. So I think the first step is paying attention to yourself, having better contact with yourself. This comes back to that idea of having a sense of your core self. And then noticing what you're feeling, noticing what you're thinking, just keeping kind of a passive inventory of it. And if thoughts of suicide happen to be entering into that equation, that's okay. We don't have to judge ourselves for that. We don't have to say it's bad or wrong or run from it, even though it's scary. But we can say, that might be an issue. I should probably deal with this. And then we can, if you have access to healthcare that gives you access to doctors, psychologists, that would be my first step. Talk to your family doctor, reach out to a therapist. Certainly one of the benefits of the pandemic, that sounds strange to say, but that it's really elaborated the virtual healthcare space in a way that we just didn't have 2 years ago, not to the same degree. So you can get access to a therapist now, if you have the money, of course, or benefits, pretty easily through a variety of platforms. Be a good consumer, though, of mental health care providers. Not every mental health care provider is the same. When I go back in for tune-up therapy every now and then, which I've always done for most of my life, I interview 3 to 5 therapists. Most of them will do your initial session for free. You sit down, chat with them, get a sense of what it feels like. Is this going to work? You want somebody who can challenge you, but do it in a supportive and connected way. And all the time, it's like I could sit down with a therapist and realize, yeah, no, this isn't going to work. This isn't right. This doesn't feel good. But sometimes it just really gels. So I think you need to be an active, conscious consumer of mental health care services, because at the end of the day, you're taking care of yourself. Nobody else is going to do the work for you, but you can get supports and people in place who can help you do that work yourself.
That was what I just wanted to ask, because I think a lot of people that also want to commit suicide or has suicidal thoughts don't have anybody to talk to. So who can that people reach out to? I mean, because you don't want to be judged. That is one main thing. You don't want to be judged. So who can they reach out to?
Yeah, this is a good question. Now, I do want to make just one small point here. Now, it's the most common way, unquestionably, to talk about suicide, to say commit suicide. I mentioned in my TED talk, though, and I've been talking for several years about the fact that that's probably not the most, it's not the most accurate way to talk about dying by suicide, which you'll notice I'll say dying by suicide rather than commit suicide. And that's because suicide isn't a crime in most jurisdictions. It's been decriminalized. Here in Canada, it was removed from the criminal code in the 70s, and in most jurisdictions across the US as well. And by far the most common connotation of the word commit is to commit murder, commit rape, commit arson. So I think we move away from that language just for the reason of letting people know that when they're suicidal, it's a health care issue. It's a health concern, not a criminal one. So I just wanted to make that point, that most people say it the way that you did, but we try to change that.
Thank you.
I got off on that tangent. You're going to have to remind me what your actual question was.
For people that get that thoughts and don't have anybody, because a lot of people that get that thoughts don't have people or a support system, where can they go? What can they do?
Yeah. So look, recognizing it in yourself is sometimes it's the most important, but it sometimes is the most difficult thing to do. Often I found this with myself and with others, that a lot of other people actually notice first before you do, because you're so, there's this idea in psychotherapy that if you're too close to somebody or to an issue, that you're not objective, so you can't see it. You're pretty close to yourself. Even if you don't like yourself, you're pretty close to yourself. So sometimes it's hard to see what's going on in yourself. So the first step sometimes is to rely on or to listen to others. If other people are telling you, and it's not just one person maybe who you have a difficult relationship with anyway, but if a few people have said, hey, maybe there's something going on here. Are you okay? Do you seem, that can help us to recognize that something might be going on. Then for the step of actually reaching out, that's when it's important to get a sense of what are your resources. Do you have the cash, to be frank, to reach out for help, depending on your jurisdictions. Even here in Canada, where we have, partially universal healthcare, mental health care, generally speaking, when it comes to therapists, isn't covered. So you still need money. If you do need money, do you have benefits? And what do those benefits look like through your employer? Is it a healthcare benefit, or are there ancillary benefits like employee and family assistance programs, for example, or other kinds of benefits that can help? If the answer to those questions is all no, I don't have any money and I don't have any benefits, then there are community mental health organizations that it's worth connecting with. So, for example, in the States, Mental Health America or NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and a number of others. Here in Canada, the Canadian Mental Health Association is one of the biggest. Over in the UK, Mind UK certainly is a one that I'm a big fan of. And these organizations exist all over the world, in fact. So find out who the community mental health organizations are in your area, because they will know your community best, generally speaking. And connect with them, ask some questions about what resources are available for somebody with limited or no means. And very often there will be peer support workers. There will be community clinics and walk-in clinics. You'll have access to community-funded mental health resources. The wait times can often be very long for these kinds of services. So make sure you have conversations about what other supports you can get in place, both professional and non-professional as well. Sometimes, I would never recommend this as a clinical intervention explicitly, but sometimes there's kind of a back door to recovery that isn't necessarily get medication, get therapy, and go through that traditional kind of process. Maybe it actually is doing other stuff that you enjoy. If you like yoga, if you exercise more, if you eat better, if you practice mindfulness, for example, there's good data to suggest that these things aren't going to cure your mental illness. Don't misrepresent that. But chances are, if you eat better, you exercise, you do more things you love, you're more socially connected with people in teams or volunteering. If you do these things, it probably is going to improve your well-being in some way. So make sure that you realize that talk to your doctor is good advice, and you should do that, but it's not going to fix all your problems for you. That there are other things that are often free that you can do to improve your mental health.
I love that you phrased it like that, like for real.
You don't have to give me much here, and you give me an inch and I'll take a mile. I'll just go on and on and on. So if you want to cut me off at any point, go ahead.
No, you're phenomenal. Like, I'm loving what you're saying. I actually am going to take my question I wrote. I have 3 questions here that I'm going to make into one. And while you're answering, I'm going to bring your book up and your website for everybody to see and know that they're going. Your TED Talk, I've put a few times. I want people to go watch it because it really is amazing. You did a great job. And you talk about such a heavy topic with an open heart. You're vulnerable. And I thank you. Affordability, employee and benefits, your community. People sometimes don't realize that, like, our community around us, the minute my dad, since I can use myself as an example, says, "Oh, you're fine," it's like, just go, you need to get over it and stuff. And they don't understand. Right. Connecting with your community sometimes is the best way. Like, that volunteering makes you see that, wow, I really don't have it as bad as I want. If you can't afford a therapist, I think Jessica Dugas asked a phenomenal question here where she says, how do you feel about those virtual on-call therapists, such as companies like BetterHelp? I personally, I noticed when I went to my therapist once a month, I noticed when COVID hit and we switched to phone calls, that the energy completely switched with my therapist. And I started to have to find another one because of the fact that it became more political than it should be when you're going to therapy, right? And it's like, there's so many other triggers going on. We don't need that in our therapy. How do you find that if you're not able to afford it and you're nervous about the community because social anxieties kick in every now and then, and the people around you maybe aren't lifting? How do you find that, even if it is connecting through an online place? How do you recommend us finding it for people who are hurting and maybe don't have that support?
Yeah, so I think you've raised a couple of important issues here brought together. I want to deal with the on-call therapy one that your viewer mentioned first, because this is very current for me. I got into an argument on Twitter a few weeks ago, actually, about just this issue. And, do you still have me? There's something happening on the screen. Oh, you're pulling out my book. Gotcha. But the on-call therapy piece. So look, these companies, I believe for the most part, were founded and are built around a profit model. I think we've come to a level of mental health awareness now, of pop mental health awareness, where you got celebrities talking about it. And this has been building for 5-10 years now, 10 years probably. You got lots of celebrities speaking openly about it. There's charities. It's kind of the cause du jour. It's very popular now to talk about mental health. So as a result, capitalists, corporate America is going to try to capitalize on that. They're going to create companies to profit from it. And that there's absolutely a piece of that in these companies. That said, I think that they have actually tapped into a necessary lacking piece in the mental health care system, which is that sometimes people need to be very closely scaffolded in terms of their recovery. And what I mean by that is that I would argue recovery from the vast majority of mental health problems and illnesses, there are some exceptions, it's learning based. It's relearning new skills. It's relearning new attachments, to a degree, processing past traumas and issues. But I take a very cognitive behavioral therapy kind of approach, which is that we need to challenge some unhelpful thinking patterns and implement more more healthy ones and constructive ones that serve us and help us more. I think that there's a role for on-call therapy in there, because if you don't, as Barack Obama used to say, you can't pull yourself up by your own bootstraps if you don't have any bootstraps. So in other words, I apply that here, in that if you don't have the skills that you need at the most basic level to better manage your emotions, then you're going to need some pretty close help. Maybe to the degree of, I am having an extreme emotional reaction right now. I don't know what to do. I need to call a therapist right away. That's okay in my mind. I think that's a good thing. Where I think these types of companies and these services need to do better, one, on the corporate side, we're never, of course, going to get rid of the corporate stuff, but data collection is a real concern. I've seen reports that some of these companies are collecting people's private personal healthcare data and then capitalizing on it, using it for profit means, selling it, all sorts of stuff. So that's an absolute concern that needs to be addressed. Quality control needs to be addressed. And this is partly needs to be done by the company. I think they hold the primary role of it, but also the consumer as well. Not all therapists are created the same. It's generally an unregulated profession in many jurisdictions, or they're evolving their regulation around what it means to be a psychotherapist in many jurisdictions. Many people practice types of psychotherapy that aren't evidence-based. And they think they're helping, and they might actually be helping a few people. But I'm a very evidence-based person. Show me the data that this actually works, not just going. And it's kind of funny because therapy is in a lot of ways all about how you're feeling, but don't just go by how it feels. We need to know that these methods actually work. And there are evidence-based psychotherapies that do work for people. So I think that's a piece of it too, is quality, making sure you're getting a good quality therapist. And then the personal connection piece is really vital. We see that across all forms of psychotherapy. Really, it depends on that patient-client or client practitioner relationship that is really key. So I think all of those issues need to be considered when looking at the on-demand therapy piece. I think it's also useful, especially when people of limited means are trying to access a therapist, to know that, that old model of come see me once a week or twice a week, or if you're talking to a Freudian 3 times a week, and pay me $200 an hour to talk about your childhood, maybe that's probably not the most helpful for everybody. That might be helpful for some people. I've done some, inner work analysis, sure. But most people respond pretty well to pretty manualized treatments that get in there, figure out what the problem is, and give them some skills to deal with it. Even short-term psychotherapy has shown great data, walk-in clinics, even some single session. There's fascinating research out of Oxford and elsewhere to show that a single session of psychotherapy focused on your anxiety measurably changes your brain. Of course it does. Everything that you learn changes your brain. So I think that this is where the data becomes your friend, to realize that there are many, many different routes to recovery, and that you just got to try a bunch of them. And, sometimes people will say, I've tried everything. I guarantee you have not tried everything. And for the sheer fact alone that there are as many different types of therapy as there are therapists, which is a lot. So I think that you need to keep trying. You need to build that resilience. You need to advocate for yourself and what you need. Be willing to challenge yourself and try everything.
Mark, I just have to say, you have come in with such a wealth of knowledge on this. I love how you're bringing this up. My last question, and Ilse, if you have one more, we'll do one more before we do our goodbyes. My last question would be modern medicine, Western medicine and all that. We're seeing a big change in people adapting to more natural sides and seeing things. How are your thoughts on that with the changes that are coming? California, Michigan have legalized psilocybin. There's other states that are doing the same thing now and starting to see why this is big for mental health. What are your feelings on people being able to look into different directions like that and maybe not want to dive into the pharmaceutical, but dive into the natural? What are your feelings on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a lot of. We could do a whole other episode on this. Like on most issues, you've noticed, I could talk a lot about them. So I have two, and I don't think they're conflicting, because that's how I've rationalized it. I don't think they're conflicting positions on this. One, be careful of woo. Go out there. A lot of people are going to try to sell you a lot of stuff. They're going to make you a lot of promises. This will change your life. This will make you feel good about yourself. This will make you not hate yourself. Wouldn't that be nice? But there's a lot of gimmicks out there. And there's a lot of stuff that is not evidence-based. So be a critical consumer. Ask for that person's or that program's credentials. Ask for the ideally double-blind randomized control trials to show that it actually works and that it's not just somebody who has an idea about something. So look for that stuff for sure. The other side of it, though, is that the traditional Western medical model is always evolving and changing. But this idea that if you just take your antidepressant and you're going to get better, it actually doesn't work. In fact, for most people, antidepressants don't work for everybody. For some people, they make them a lot worse. So this is not the cut and dry kind of situation. And I don't think I've ever talked about this in an interview before, but I've had depression virtually all of my adult life, for sure, for more than half of my entire life. And psilocybin changed my life. When I finally started experimenting in a very informal way with that, it expanded my mind in such a way that I was able to see beyond myself, literally in the course of a trip, but then later on too. I think it just fundamentally changed my health permanently, it feels like. So I would never recommend a specific course of treatment to anybody, but I do take a very non-judgmental approach that if you're doing something and it works for you, and it's not hurting anybody else, and you're also being honest with yourself. You're not actually hurting yourself, but you've spun it into a way that, well, maybe you just really like it and it's not helping you. I think that's important to consider that too. But I think if it helps you and doesn't hurt anybody, then who am I to judge?
Do you think that cannabis can help for mental health, in your personal opinion, that it can help with mental health and issues related to suicide?
This is going to be, I guess I do have a lot of controversial opinions, but this is going to be one of them. I actually don't think it's particularly helpful. And that is very much against the grain because I know that people in my social circles, certainly the broader cultural narrative is the benefits of cannabis. I think it's been commercialized to such a degree here in Canada where it's been legalized. There's pot stores on every corner in Toronto where I'm located. I think it's socially much more acceptable now. The research, the data, is still a little bit behind. I think that if you see data that says that cannabis will make your anxiety worse, for example, well, a lot of the research isn't yet discriminating between different types of cannabis, for example, different strains, different levels, certainly, of THC and other chemicals therein. So I don't think the research is as high quality yet as we need, but there is a solid connection between cannabis use and as an epigenetic factor that might trigger psychosis, for example. There's a solid connection between cannabis and schizophrenia and psychosis. So I think these issues need to be critically considered. And if you're a big cannabis supporter, that's fine, but don't disregard the research that challenges your opinion either. I think that's key. Don't just go all in on something and uncritically consume it.
Correct. And I think that life's a balance. I love how you phrase that, because if you are all on one or the other, it's just like being all or one and another in a political party. You're not hearing both sides. There needs to be a lot more research done to see benefits from strains, to how much THC a person gets. I like how you phrase that, Mark. So
I just want to mention on that too, and it's the last thing I'll say, I'll promise.
Sure, Mark.
But I think it's also important to consider, behavior is information. Why
Yes.
do people do what they do? Why do you feel you need to use cannabis in order to feel better? And that question alone, I think, is incredibly instructive. Well, because I'm so anxious and I don't like that feeling, and the anxiety, and it makes the anxiety go away. Okay, that's fine. I'm glad that it helps. But maybe we should do some work to figure out what's causing the anxiety. And maybe we can learn some other coping mechanisms that you don't need something to help you. Maybe the answer is just, I really like it. Okay, that's fine too. That's a different issue. So I think we need to be able to have those conversations and understand why people are doing what they do, not
Yes.
just that they do it.
Yes, I think that's phenomenally said. Like, that's you had me applauding even though I was on mute earlier. So I'm going to bring Jessica back in, and the way we actually end each show is, there we go. Now it's on the right one. The way we end each show is we speak positivity to everybody. That could be your favorite quote. That could be a favorite song lyric. That could be confessing your love to Jessica Dugas. Whatever you choose to do, I understand. What we'll do is I'm actually going to go first, so you see an example. Then Ilse, then Jessica, and then you. Dang it, I'm backwards on all of them. So that way you see how it goes and how easy this is, but it's speaking positivity to everybody to help them get through their day or end their day as Ilse's day is doing. So guys, today has been incredible. From Jessica Dugas coming in, giving us a breakthrough moment, to Brett Gordon being in the background, just starting crap like he does. We're very lucky to have the community that we have of people sitting here communicating and then coming out with guests like Mark, who talk about these heavy topics. Do not hesitate to reach out to him, connect with his stuff, look at his TED Talk, but most of all, here are the words he was saying about how you don't need to live your life right at that barrier of getting mad. You don't need to, or getting upset. You need to be able to find those around you that are building you up, even when you're uncomfortable. And most importantly, learning how to know you and what your boundaries are. Mark came in with a wealth of knowledge. I see his book on Amazon. I'm going to literally go on and look at it, / buy it right away. I have to look at the bank account first, but I'm going to make sure I could go get it. And from there, guys, take a moment for yourself today. Look in and make sure you're giving yourself everything you need. Thanks for joining us.
Today was a rough day. Some emotions, some good talks about suicide, people that have problems, don't have anybody to talk to. I just want to say, if you feel like that, reach out. Someone will listen. And then I've got a quote here that just fell into my lap at the right time, right place. It says, "Silence make the real conversations between friends, not the saying, but the never needing to say that counts." I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
It has been so amazing being back on the show today. I wanted to share something really quickly about I made a social media post yesterday about when I was in the midst of being really sick about a month ago. And I said to myself something that I had a fleeting thought that really scared me. I said, would it matter if I was able to push through and put on this event? Would it even matter? Would people find a way to support the organizations that I had a desire to support, that I'm passionate about, even if the event could go on? And the truth is that life will go on, but you could be that one person that makes a difference. You could be one thing that you do could change someone's mindset, could change their world. You could be, you are a person that can make a difference no matter what's going on in your world. And I echo what Ilse said of reaching out and just talking to someone, because you can make a difference, but you have to be here to do it. I just thank you guys for allowing me back on the show today. It's been a blast.
Thank you all so much for listening to this, for having this conversation. It was really such a valuable conversation for me, I think more than anybody, to be able to have this conversation with you. I want people to know that if you're struggling with thoughts of suicide, if you're an attempter, for sure, if you've lost a loved one to suicide, you need to know that these experiences will contribute to defining you. that these are defining experiences. They don't, however, predict your future. That you can use this life experience and build something really beautiful out of it. This isn't a death sentence, this idea that you want to die, believe it or not. I've now used for more than 20 years, I've been using my struggle to build a purpose. Don't wait for somebody to hand you your purpose, build that purpose. And I'm reminded of a quote by Viktor Frankl. It's one of my favorite quotes, actually. He says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is your power to choose your response. And your response is your growth and your freedom. And I love that because it shows us that we have more power than we think that we have, if only we separate out our reactions from our responses to those reactions. So I hope that you take a mindful moment in between those reactions to really give some thought to what you can do with it next. And there's always a next step.
God, this was a great episode. Guys, don't forget tonight, so one thing Mark doesn't know is we have a show at night that we do at 6 p.m. Tonight, we actually are doing the movie Brian's Song. And it's a classic movie, but we're actually take these movies and add a tool for people to build their best tool belt. So guys, don't forget to join us tonight, having a conversation about Brian's Song. And then after that, we have our Throwback Thursday with Jessica Dugas doing our 80s dance routines. I've already got my leotard ready. I've got my knee highs ready. I'm ready, Jess. It's going to be a fun one. So Mark, thank you so much for coming on, not just being vulnerable, but opening the door for so many other people to see strength in such a heavy topic. So guys, give him a follow, give him some love, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.